This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday in the wake of Jean Boulet's comments today. Of course, not surprisingly, Francois Legault was asked about this. I want you to hear this exchange. I believe this is Phil Oche. Take a listen.
We saw this morning lots of criticism of Mr. Boulet's statement and the fact that nearly everything he said in that statement was wrong.
Right.
Do you still have some of your opponents are calling for him to be removed as a candidate? He should not be in cabinet, Madame Anglade says. Do you still have confidence in Mr. Boulet? And can he stay given all that's happened now?
First, I spoke to Mr. Boulet yesterday, and he's so sad about what he said. So I think that, like I said, he won't be able to be Minister of Immigration, but still the guy is a bright guy, and he did a good job for the last 4 years.
Okay, you know what I love in that clip? When he says that he was very sad, you hear a foghorn just go off in the background. Yeah. I thought that was brilliant.
I heard that
By
too.
the way, the follow-up to that question, because he was being kind of vague in there, was this, Jim.
Still be in your future cabinet?
I don't exclude that, but I will start working on that on October 4th.
Okay. What do you think?
So, I'm Francois Legault, and I don't care. Okay, this is the message he's putting out, and this is the message that he's always put out. It's interesting because, as I mentioned yesterday, Monsieur Boulet was, I guess still is, the labor minister. So, does he go back to that, even though he said 80% of immigrants don't work? I mean, this is it. But you have to understand that we're at the point now, and it's been 24 hours since, with all the tidal wave of outrage broke, and it's hanging around. I know Francois Legault would like it to go away. I know he'd like to pave it over, but I don't know, have you guys seen this Liberal attack ad that they slapped together in the wake of Mr.
No, sir.
It runs 2 minutes and 13 seconds. You can find it on Twitter, which we posted it at MontrealGazette.com as well. It's devastating. And even though it's been criticized, you people are doing American-style politics, there is not a single second in that ad that is not filled with Francois Legault simply saying what he has been saying about immigration from day one. And this is the issue. All of a sudden, not for all Quebec voters, but for many Quebec voters, this campaign, whether they like it or not, has become something of a referendum on what Mr. Boulet said. You either agree with that, or you don't care, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the equivalent of agreeing with it, or you don't. Will this have an effect on the outcome? I don't think so. Will it have an effect on the amount of the majority that the CAQ gets? I do. I really do. I think more damage was done to the CAQ in the past, 30 hours than has been done since they came into power. And believe me, they've done themselves a lot of damage in terms of their reputation, in terms of their honesty, in terms of their keeping to their word. All of that is out the window. And now, I was almost going to say, they're saying the quiet part out loud. They've always said the quiet part out loud.
That's true.
They've made no secret of this. So the question now is, how does this translate? Yes, you have a Liberal attack ad. Yes, you've got Eric Duhaime, head of the Conservatives. And yes, it's quite true. He did call for a wall or a fence to be put up at Roxham Road. So we're not talking about the patron saint of immigration here. But on the other hand, he says, I don't understand why Monsieur Boulet is still a candidate. Simple as that. Madame Anglade of the Liberals is saying, well, he certainly shouldn't be in cabinet. But there you go. I think the public is hearing more about this particular issue now than they ever have.
Yeah.
And the fact, it's kind of a nightmare scenario that it's happening so close to voting day. We're 3 days away, and all of a sudden, this is front and center in the news. And quite frankly, I think the opposition is going to do its best to keep it there. We've already seen a certain amount of fallout on Francois Legault himself. He was being interviewed by Radio Canada up in Rouen-Noranda, where the whole issue of the emissions from the local foundry, the amount of arsenic, the carcinogens that are have been detected there, the threat that it represents to local residents' health. Not a typical Legault, he says, well, it's up to the residents if they want to keep the foundry or get rid of it. In other words, if they want to keep the good-paying jobs or face the risk. But then he began just walking up one side of the interviewer and down the other. What you're saying isn't true. This doctor's report isn't true. We're doing the best that we can. This was not typical. I mean, that usually Francois Legault saves his anger and his contempt for female critics or people who say or sit across from the National Assembly with him. It's the first time anyone's really heard him go kind of rippy on someone who's in the media. It probably won't be the last either. But the thing is, I think there are cracks appearing in this, we're everybody's friend. I think, and I'd be fascinated to know what the tenor is within the CAQ caucus, which I'm told consists of a lot of separatists, but a certain amount of federalists as well. How those federalists or so-called federalists perceive themselves now, literally working side by side with a guy who yesterday repeated the kind of comment on immigrants that you would usually hear in a bar at 2 o'clock in the morning from some guy who had one too many and basically didn't like anybody to start with. So when we're looking at that context, it's going to be an interesting few days. But as I say, I think this one has been hung around Francois Legault's neck, mostly with his own help. And it'll be fascinating to see whether he's able to chug through the next 3 days, sort of sidestepping this, or whether people are finally going to figure out that this is a government which from day one has made it clear they have a particular view of the world, they have a particular view of your rights, and it's going to go through whether you like it or not.
I want to say two things. Number one, I agree with your assessment. You're right. I believe this idea that this has been a gift, right, to the opposition parties because all of them are united in their reaction to what he said. That doesn't happen all the time. And Jim, number two, he's playing an awful lot of defense, isn't he, for a guy who kind of was hoping that for the last couple of days he could just sit back and gloat. Exactly.
He thought he was going to cruise between now. Keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, just keep playing the cassette, and we'll get through. We'll all wake up on Tuesday morning, we'll be in government again. That may happen, but I got to tell you, the entire perspective on this party, that idea that it had just been the critics who said these guys are bigots, these guys discriminate against minorities of all kinds, linguistic, ethnic, you name it. I remember Carlos Letao, when he was still a Liberal MNA, remember he had to apologize for describing the CAQ government as being ethnic nationalist? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Try that now. Try and wriggle out of that now, given the events of the last 24 hours. The other thing that's interesting, though, guys, and I know we're running out of time, expect to hear in the next 3 days a whole heck of a lot more about the topic of election reform, which Monsieur Legault says is of interest only to intellectuals. Because I'm telling you, there's a Main Street poll came out. They had the Conservatives at 19%. And Duhaime has already said it's kind of weird if a party polls 20% and it doesn't get a single seat in the National Assembly. What's going to make it even weirder, guys, is if a party polls 37% and winds up with maybe 100 seats. That is going to be an issue that suddenly is going to dawn on people. They're going to realize, and not just the usual suspects, not just the people listening to us, the Anglos, the Allos, people living in Montreal. A lot of Quebecers are going to realize my vote is worthless, and my vote is going to be blown in the wind because a rock-hard minority of CAQ supporters are going to send their party to a majority of control in the National Assembly, even though they got less than 40% of the votes. Trust me, this topic will be coming up a lot.
Meanwhile, I was going to say the best possible outcome from this whole big mess with what they've been saying vis-a-vis immigrants would be that it actually really, truly compels people to get out and vote, and that the thought that their vote might not count just makes it so terrible. The very thought of it. But I'm relishing, I'm hoping, I'm praying that this truly compels people to get out and vote.
Well, look at the alternative, though, guys. If the CAQ wins by the same margin of the ridiculous margin, they get 37% vote, they get 75% of the seats. The message in Quebec and to the rest of the country will be clear. What M. Boulay said 24 hours ago was not a mistake. Mm-hmm. As I said yesterday, it's policy, and that's how we do things in Quebec.
Dog whistle.
James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adam.